I hope you realize how ridiculous the four of you look, spouting these preposterous, canned answers in a forum in which A, you're supposed to tell the truth, and B, you're supposed to demonstrate the judicial capacity to make independent, factual decisions in hard cases. If you can't even sit here and say that Joe Biden won that election or that the Capitol was attacked, what's left if a hard case comes your way as a judge? And let's say the Trump administration is bearing down on that.
There is something happening to the American justice system right now that most people are not connecting to its source. Federal judges across the United States are living under the worst wave of violent threats in modern American history. Death threats, bomb threats, their home addresses posted online, their family members targeted, their children followed. A judge in New Jersey had her son killed and her husband shot at their front door. A would-be assassin was arrested outside Justice Kavanaugh's home. Justice Amy Coney Barrett's sister received a bomb threat. Judges appointed by both Republican and Democratic presidents are being targeted. According to the US Marshals Service, serious threats against federal judges have more than doubled in the last 3 years. In just the 5 months between October 2025 and March 2026, there were over 300 investigations involving more than 200 judges. Chief Justice John Roberts himself called it dangerous. The federal judiciary was forced to establish an entirely new task force just to deal with the volume of threats. And here is the part that makes this a serious accountability story and not just a public safety story. The US Marshals Service, the agency whose entire job is to protect federal judges, reports directly to the Department of Justice, which means it reports to Pam Bondi, which means it ultimately reports to the president. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has asked the Marshals Service one very simple question more than a dozen times. When you investigate a threat against a judge, will you follow the evidence beyond the person who made the threat to whoever might have organized, solicited, or inspired it? They will not answer. And in this hearing, Whitehouse is sitting across from 4 judicial nominees, people who want to become federal judges themselves. And he is asking them whether they understand the legal theories that would allow exactly that kind of investigation. But the real question underneath all of this is far more serious than a legal quiz. Watch what he is actually building toward.
Just to finish Senator Blumenthal's point, I hope you realize how ridiculous the four of you look, spouting these preposterous, canned answers in a forum in which A, you're supposed to tell the truth, and B, you're supposed to demonstrate the judicial capacity to make independent, factual decisions in hard cases. If you can't even sit here and say that Joe Biden won that election or that the Capitol was attacked, what's left? What's left if a hard case comes your way as a judge, and let's say the Trump administration is bearing down on that? Why would we ever believe that you would give the litigants a fair hearing and a fair decision if the executive branch was leaning in on you when we can't get a reasonable answer out of any of you with the executive branch leaning in on you to give these ridiculous answers today? I'm really sorry to have to go through this and that you have to go through this, but it would be nice if you could tell your executive branch handlers, for instance, Ms. Clark, I'm supported by Lindsey Graham. He's a friend of President Trump. He's the second senior person on the Republican side in the Judiciary Committee. He's likely to be the next Judiciary Committee chair. I think I'll be okay. I don't need to make myself ridiculous at your direction. It'd be great if you could have said that. It would be great if your answers were simple and honest here today. It's really disappointing. Let me ask a different question, a legal question. A judge, you want to be judges. A judge gets a threat to the judge's life or to the judge's family. Can you imagine a scenario in which liability may attach to individuals beyond the utterer of that threat. Ms. Clark?
Senator, as a prosecutor, there are instances where there's some responsibility that is assigned to someone who is not the utterer of a threat to an individual. And so to answer your question, yes, I can imagine.
Do you agree?
Yes, Senator, and if confirmed to the bench, I would follow all Supreme Court precedent and Ninth Circuit precedent.
Mr. Rick, you agree?
Yes, Senator, I would agree with that.
I don't know that I care what you think, Ms. Westerkamp, because you're going to international trade and you're probably not going to see much of this, but do you agree?
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, and those doctrines that would provide the legal basis for investigation in those scenarios would include doctrines like, name one, Ms. Clark.
Senator, doctrines that are, if someone is essentially carrying out
solicitation, would that be
Yes.
one? Solicitation of a
Yes.
threat?
yes,
Or a conspiracy out of which the threat emerged, would that be another one?
yes,
Yes. How about, and it's the product of an enterprise under the racketeering statutes. Would that also be another way that liability could extend beyond the utterer?
that is correct, Senator.
Can you think of any others, Ms. Lane, where liability extends beyond the utterer of the threat? What are some of the legal theories that would support that kind of investigation and prosecution?
Senator, the doctrines you mentioned, I would agree with, and I would just look always to the federal law and federal statutes guiding that.
Mr. Rickey?
Senator, I would agree with that. I think you covered the major ones, conspiracy, RICO. There may be other avenues of potential legal liability, but I think you covered the three big ones in that scenario.
Ms. Westerkamp, you agree?
Senator, I'm not aware if there are any more with my practice before the Court of International Trade and Court of Federal Claims. It doesn't touch on criminal law.
So here's why I asked you these questions. I asked you these questions because right now federal judges are under the worst shadow of physical threat in my lifetime and perhaps in the history of this country. And in responding to those threats, we have the United States Marshals Service, which reports to the Department of Justice. And I have now over a dozen times asked the Marshals Service, will you investigate behind the utterer of a threat if the evidence justifies it? That's a super easy question. The answer is, yeah, of course we will. They won't answer that. They won't answer that. And I point this out because judges across the country need to pay attention to the fact that the Marshals Service won't confirm that it will investigate behind the utterer of a threat if the evidence supports that. And why would that be the case? That would be the case because when you get behind the utterer of a lot of these threats, you run into right-wing conspiracies. And this MAGA Department of Justice would rather not go there. And so they leave judges exposed with investigations in which they aren't doing investigative 101 work that you've all identified as plausible legal theories. And we need to fix that. We need to fix that.
So here is what you just watched, and here is why it matters enormously right now. Senator Whitehouse walked 4 judicial nominees through a basic legal exercise. He asked them to confirm that when someone threatens a judge, the law allows investigators to go beyond the person who made the threat to investigate whoever solicited it, whoever conspired to cause it, whoever ran an enterprise under which it emerged. All 4 nominees confirmed that, yes, those legal theories exist and are valid. That confirmation matters because of what Whitehouse said next. He said that right now, today, federal judges are living under the worst physical threat environment of his lifetime and possibly in American history. And the agency responsible for protecting them, the US Marshals Service, will not confirm that it is doing investigative work beyond the person who directly made each threat. This is not a small procedural complaint. This is a senator saying that the people protecting federal judges are deliberately stopping their investigations before they get to whoever might be organizing or inspiring the threats. And he told us exactly why he thinks that is happening. He said, when you follow those threats back beyond the person who sent them, you run into right-wing networks and conspiracy ecosystems. And the DOJ under this administration does not want to go there. Here is the documented record that supports that concern. Senator Dick Durbin sent a formal letter to Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel in May 2025 demanding an investigation into the escalating threats against federal judges. He received no response. Over a month later, he sent another letter noting that the silence made it clear they were not concerned about the ongoing threats. He still received no substantive response. In November 2025, the DOJ's own Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, gave a speech at a Federalist Society conference and described the administration as being at war with the federal judiciary. He invited young lawyers to join the fight against what he called activist judges. The New York City Bar Association formally condemned those remarks, saying they presented a serious threat to the safety of judges at a time when violence toward judges was at unprecedented levels. Think about what that means. The number 2 official at the Department of Justice, the agency responsible for protecting federal judges through the Marshals Service, publicly declared war on those same judges and encouraged lawyers to join that fight. And Pam Bondi said nothing. At the same time, Trump and his allies were publicly calling for the impeachment of judges who ruled against the administration. Elon Musk was posting on social media about impeaching judges by name. Republican members of Congress were introducing impeachment resolutions against sitting judges for nothing more than issuing rulings the administration disliked. Every legal expert who weighed in said clearly that threatening impeachment over judicial decisions is a form of intimidation designed to make judges afraid to rule against the government. And the Marshals Service, which is supposed to investigate threats against judges, reports to the same DOJ that is simultaneously declaring war on those judges. This is the conflict of interest that Senator Whitehouse is exposing. He is not just asking a legal question. He is building a case that the agency responsible for protecting judges has been compromised by the very political pressure that is generating the threats in the first place. When the people who are supposed to protect the courts work for the same administration that is attacking the courts, the protection becomes selective. It becomes political. And the judges who are ruling against this administration become, in practice, less protected than the ones who are not. Chief Justice John Roberts said publicly just last week that personal criticism of federal judges is dangerous. He said it at a time when his own court was facing unprecedented pressure. He said it knowing that the agency protecting his justices answers to a DOJ that has declared war on the judiciary. Senator Whitehouse ended his remarks with a simple statement. We need to fix that. The question is who exactly has the power to fix it and whether anyone in a position to do so actually wants to. If you think this kind of accountability coverage matters, subscribe and stay with us. This story is still unfolding and there is much more to follow.